Hey, everybody, welcome back to season 5, episode 2. I cannot believe I just said that. We are so excited to have you guys all back for another season. And we are actually here today with a guest that we've done quite a lot of partnerships with in the past at Fort Liberty. And we're really excited to be able to actually showcase him here on the podcast. I'm joined with Sabrina and Kate. Welcome to the podcast, Kate.
Thank you. Thanks for having
So
us.
today, Kate, can you tell us a little bit about who you guys are?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Kate. I am the Community Programs Manager here at Instant Teams. And Instant Teams as a company was created by military spouses for military spouses about 8 years ago. And the goal is really to provide remote work opportunities for military spouses so they can maintain careers, through challenges and all the things that the lifestyle brings, like PCSing the time. So both jobs, but then also community engagement and experiences as well.
Yeah, I love that. I, as a military spouse, wish I had known about Instant Teams back in the day. If you follow us along, you guys know that I work remotely for my family. So I've been very fortunate to be able to have a remote job where I've been able to PCS with, but that wasn't always the case. And it was really, really hard to find a career and have jobs, especially like when you have young kids. And, we've talked about this in past podcasts where like I was even let go from a job because I'm a military spouse and was having to take off because I had sick kids and my husband couldn't cover. And so I love that there's a group of out there who is intentionally looking for and helping military spouses find online jobs. That's really, really great. Can you tell us a little bit more about that process? Like, how is that process of like applying for the jobs? Is it all through Instant Team, or are you guys more of a like a stepping stone, like you can help find jobs
It,
outside of a certain network? Like how does it all kind of work?
yeah, so typically someone will hear about Instant Teams, whether through someone or a community event, or they'll find our app. You can obviously follow us on social, things like that. And the job opportunities really range anywhere from entry level all the way up to executive level. So that allows spouses to be able to bring different skills to the table and find something that really fits them. It is also, we focus on skill-based hiring. And what that means is we know that military spouses in particular may have gaps in their resume. So I often equate it, so I felt like my resume was like
Yes.
all over the place.
Yes.
It's like, okay, well, I've done this, I've done this, and I've done it here, and all those things. So with the skill-based hiring, we're able to see the gaps don't really matter in that sense, and we have found that military spouses in particular gain a ton of skills, like different types of skills throughout just life experience, whether it's project managing your home as you're PCSing with children running around, or all kinds of different things. And so when you go through the process, you can put in your skills. We do skills assessments, things like that. So that is something that's kind of unique and really beneficial, particularly for military
I
spouses.
love that because like how you said, like your resume was all over the place. Like we joke all the time that it looks like I just Googled and copied and paste. Like my resume made no sense. Like when I mean like I had everything from like a restaurant manager to working in the behavioral health field to contract work for a door and dock company, like all over the place. And like when you put it all together, you're right. Like you have so many different like skill sets. Like, there's certain skills from one job that can benefit another job, but may not necessarily be like the top like priority.
Yeah, it's like something that they might not like see when they're looking at it. They're like, "Oh, she worked at Cold Stone," but you don't realize like, "Oh, she also managed behind the scenes." So that's like
Customer service, all that.
inventory. That's a lot of things that like is a lot more useful in other jobs, like you were saying. Yeah.
But it's like also like, so
Right.
I love that you guys take that and you look at the resumes and you see that because like a lot of other companies don't. Like for instance, like the job that I was let go from, I wouldn't have gotten hired if it hadn't been for, so I grew up military. So my dad's buddy who was working for him. So he was actually one of the head departments for a different department that I was applying for. And he actually had to go in there and be like, hey, like she applied like bring her in for an interview. I know her. I'll vouch for her. She's a great employee, da, 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 da. And they're like, oh yeah, no, we threw her resume in the trash because like she just doesn't have a consistent work experience. Like she was only at a job every 2 years, you know, she like all this other thing goes, no, well, she's a military spouse. Like what's wrong with you people? And, you know, I think that's one of those weird things, like, you know, that you know, should you put that you're a military spouse on your resume? Should you not put it on your resume? Because it's going to depend on whoever that hiring manager is. Like if you have someone who understands lifestyle, yes, I want that person. But if you have someone who doesn't understand what a military spouse can bring, even like a soldier, like anyone who has this constant inconsistency experience of moving around and things like that, they may not see it as a potential. So I love that you guys look at that and you take that and there's that opportunity for spouses. Because boy,
Yeah,
I
it's
feel so bad for anyone who has to. I mean, Sabrina's been trying to find a job for how long now?
It's been a while,
It's
yeah.
been a while. And it's
I'm kind of picky about
yeah.
it because I do homeschool, so I need
yeah.
something that I can like
Hmm.
just sit down, do some work, go to school, like just be flexible about it. Like I know like a lot
Hmm.
of jobs that I've seen are call center jobs, which is good for a lot of people, but wouldn't really function with my children in the next room the way that they are.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But it's I'm
Yeah, and I try to encourage spouses too. Like being a military spouse can actually be your greatest asset. You know, if now, like you said, not everybody understands what that, you know, means or the benefits that someone brings to the table as a result. But if you can, you know, highlight your skills, but then also, you know, show how there's so many things that military spouses have gained, what they're relatable, you know, they're resilient, they can adapt easily, like they can do hard things under pressure. Like there's all of those things that when you start thinking about it, like you actually are really
yeah.
remarkable, you know, and incredible in what you bring to the table. So trying to, you know, highlight that, speak to those things, and, you know, showcasing those skills, even if if you don't think, hey, homeschooling, like that's an amazing skill. Like talk about all of the things that go into that, where you're like, oh, well, you know, I'm homeschooling, but it's like, oh my gosh, you project manage, you're like an organizer, like all of these different incredible things that able military spouses really
Yeah,
have.
and it's such a great like the program that you guys have set up, and I love that you guys are getting out more because like I didn't know about you guys until I actually went to I don't even know how I came across you guys. Now that I think about it, I think it was actually we partnered up with you guys for a community event at Fort Liberty. And it just
Mm-hmm.
happened to be like I had posted that we were looking for a space, and I think it was Jen, and she was just like, "Hey, like we have this great new space. I think you
Yeah.
guys just had opened. I think like maybe had just opened like a couple weeks." And I was like, "Wait, where has this been?" And thankfully it had just opened and I wasn't just delirious and like just not in, you know, the scope of everything of what was happening around the area. But so if you're at Fort Liberty, Instant Team has a community center that is open to military spouses. That is really great. Like they do a really great amount of community. You can go there and utilize it for office needs. So like if you need to have a meeting, like anything like that. And it's a really great space. It's right downtown. And we have loved partnering with you guys so much. We've done a couple events with you guys, and it has been really nice just to have that space to utilize as military spouses, especially like if you work from home, like or like we have, you know, Deployed Love where we're running it out of our home. So like if we need to have a space where we can go and have a meeting where we come together or whatever it may be, like it's nice to have that space. So I was really, really excited when that came out. So will you tell us a little bit more about the community space? And if you're not at Fort Liberty, there's an online community as well. So will you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, if you are outside of Fort Liberty in Southern Pines is the Instant Team's headquarters and community space. It is free for military spouses. So, take advantage of that space. Come meet other spouses. You know, there is often recruiters in there, you know, if you're looking for job opportunities or somebody, tons of events, lots of just ways to connect. And then I'll talk a little bit about the app. But we did find that, you know, over the years, not only do spouses need employment opportunities, but they really need community. And that's why we created both the Space app. Hopefully over the years, we'll have the in-person locations pop up in other places. We'll see. I mean, you never know, but that would be a long goal. So it's obviously not just with all of those things, we did a survey actually to see, what do spouses really need? And the things that came out that we focus on and we're particularly focusing on here in 2025 were jobs, skills, and experiences. Because a lot of the things that spouses said too is they just want to have fun. Like they want to connect and, be together and with people that get them and understand the life. You can find that our community app, the Instant Teams community app, you can find in, both app stores. That is kind of replicating that space, but virtually. Obviously it's a little bit different, to connect virtually, but if you're PCSing, it is a way to stay connected, with the community actions. It is exclusively for military spouses, so you do have to go through a verification process to get in, simple, through Share ID. But when you do that, that unlike, maybe other platforms or things like, here, and we can just collaborate and do a lot of great stuff together. So yeah, like I said, we focus on jobs, skills, and then experience. We provide courses. We've done, really just fun and, virtual events, different things like that. So those are kind of the best two places to connect if you're in the Fort Liberty area or your PCR, or any military spouse globally can join the community app.
Yeah, they're both really great. I've been in the app since, like I said, like right when it was like launched, and I think that's something that a lot of military spouses do enjoy, is that there is that sense of security, sense of that there's not anyone random in there that's just going to just like know the information that they don't need to know. And that's nice to have like a secure location to where you can go ask questions and feel safe. And I think a lot of military spouses look for that and enjoy that. So I love that is an option for a lot of spouses to go and do. And like I said, the events are great, guys. I mean, I've had the best time at all of the events I've gone to with Instant Teams. The events that we've put on with Instant Teams, their events, was it the Bash last year celebrating the thing was so much fun. I drove all the way down from Virginia to go to it because I was like, I am not missing.
We definitely, okay, if you are around us a little while, you will know we love to be creative. We like to think out of the box, like do really fun things. Like, yes, we'll do coffee and hang out and, do meetups all over, but we also love to do really fun out of the box events that are different and just really highlighting and the military spouse and having fun together.
So carefully curated though, because like even though this was like a birthday celebration, like you were celebrating, there was still things that like you could come and get something out of it. Like, there was a photographer there that we helped, to help organize, to have a photographer there to do headshots. And that was so great to be able to have where someone you could go to celebrate, enjoy the community and all that, but also be able to bring home something that you can utilize to help you for your LinkedIn, things like that. So overall, like it is, like I said, it's been the best time. Like I cannot wait to get back to Fort Liberty just so I can go and continue our partnership and things like that and work with everybody. But yeah, so there's obviously like, the job aspect, the training aspect, the community aspects, all of those come together full circle to help military spouses be the very best that they can be. And I think that's just a really great way to kind of approach military spouses. And I love that you guys, like I said, are getting your names out there more and more and more. You guys are becoming a little bit more recognizable. And I was like, wait, we haven't, like I was telling Sabrina, I was like, we haven't had them on the podcast yet. Like we need to have them on the podcast and help them continue to grow. And so kind of moving into like the next section of this, like what are some like, obviously like other than contacting you guys or getting involved on your guys' platforms, like what are some tips and tricks that you guys have for military spouses that can kind of help them stand out if they are applying for jobs and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, kind of like I mentioned before, just highlighting the skills, that you have and thinking out of the box a little bit. Like, don't think that, homeschooling, for example, I know we mentioned, doesn't have a lot of these incredible, skills that employers are for. So we have recruiters, we have even in the app, like you can also ask us questions. Like we're happy to help, in those. If you are looking to upskill in different areas, if you're thinking you're interested in, digital marketing, for example, but maybe some things, but you want to have a little bit more skill set there. We do offer inside of the community. All of those courses, again, are free, for military. So the courses we have, for example, with Grow with Google, you can take, they have professional certifications, so those are opportunities there if you're looking at something in particular you're interested in. And yeah, whatever we can do, our main goal for the community in particular is really to co-create together. So, whatever your needs are, like let us know so that we can come alongside of you and help you, because yeah, our overall goal is not just to help you, survive in this military journey, but really to thrive and to, I don't know.
No,
You can get that out. Like you can stop with thrive.
I didn't realize that there was like the training, like
Yeah.
the aspects of like learning on your skill sets that you have inside there. So I think that it's a really cool thing for military spouses to be able to use. A question that I did have was, as far as resumes, so you've been talking about the homeschool thing. It's not really a job in my eyes, like I wouldn't list it as a career or a job on my resume. Is it something that I should list as something as a job in my resume in order for people to realize that? Because unless they get to the interview, they're not going to really see that off my resume.
Sure. I think it's interesting. It kind of depends on what you're looking for, who the employer is. You may have to adjust your resume for every job you apply for, so don't just think, oh, let's put it on and then we're good to go. Like I said, you may have to adjust it the way that, yeah, with skill assessments and things like that, a lot of those things are going to come out, throughout the process, at least with us at Instant Teams, that you don't necessarily have to have written out, in a resume. Sometimes we have people that don't even submit resumes, honestly, but they go through and they'll submit their skills, do the skill assessment on to the interview. So it just, I would say, highlight depending on the job, look at the, the company itself, look at the job itself, and really see, okay, what are they looking for? And then think through, okay, in my life and in my experiences, what could I highlight, that goes along with these things that they're looking for. And if it means, hey, I'm going to deep dive into homeschooling, like go for it. And if it doesn't, then leave it off, and highlight it in a different way. And it may come out in the interview then.
And I'm thinking this is kind of where the section would fall into, is like a cover letter, like, right. Highlighting, even as a military spouse, highlighting things that you've learned from being part of the community, part of, your husband's unit and stuff like that, in a cover letter versus in your resume.
Yeah, that could be great. And also thinking through like the characteristics, that set you apart. Like I said, I'm relatable, or I'm adaptable, or, you can highlight those things and then give a couple of examples of, where you're that through different experiences in your life, so they can see, okay, this person's really well-rounded, like they're going to show up on time, they're going to do their best, they're going to work with excellence, they're going to stick around, all of those different things.
Yeah, I think, and that's like really great too, because like, you were talking about how you guys have the courses and stuff like that. Even if you are not ready to enter the workforce, like in the immediate future, like say in the next 6 months to a year, working on those like skill sets and doing those courses to prepare yourself for when you're ready to do it will be way less stressful. I mean, we all handle stress. We all know that. But if you don't have to, don't put yourself into that stressful situation. Don't like bog down on like applying for jobs and then trying to get all these courses done to showcase that you have these skills. Like, do them at your leisure when you can. And I think that's a great, between like you guys and other resources that are out there, there's so many different places that offer these courses and things like that to kind of help set you up to, one, to stand out, two, to set you up for like being successful and taking that time, especially if you're like a stay-at-home mom and you're going to go into the workforce when your kid goes back to school. So say you have a 2-year-old and when your child goes to kindergarten in 2 or 3 years, you're going to go back into the workforce. Like, use that time during nap time or things like that to fluff up your resume,
Yeah,
or
getting some
fluff your
skills.
skills. Yeah. Like I
Yeah.
said, as a military spouse, like one of my biggest things that I did not do when I was a young military spouse is I did not utilize any, I can't believe I'm saying this as I'm like a huge supporter of resources now. I didn't utilize any of them. I feel like, I mean, obviously I've been a military spouse for almost 15 years. So it's been a while since I was a baby milspow, but I didn't utilize any of them. I didn't utilize, my CAA. I mean, I tried to, but they didn't work. Back then, it didn't work for anything I wanted to do. Now, there's more flexibility and there's a lot more things that are offered through all these different resources. So you do have to just kind of pick and choose what works for you guys. But I do think that having like this community where you can go in and ask the questions, you guys have all these resources at your fingertips as well to help military spouses find jobs, and they're remote jobs, which is fantastic because it sucks finding a job that you can't, like, like, oh, in 2 years I'm not gonna be able to do this. Like, they're not gonna let me transfer if I move to a different state. They're not gonna let me do this if we move from the East Coast to the West Coast type of thing. And obviously there's probably going to be some times where that's still going to be the case because of time zone differences and things like that, depending on the job. But it's so nice that there is a group out there who is just like, no, we have online jobs for military spouses specifically, and we're here to help you find them. And I think that's so great because that's all you see online. It's like, who knows of a job that's online that can help me get a job online? Whether it's because they have kids at home or their schedule only allows, they have one car, whatever the case may be. And I love it. I'm here for it. And I'm, like I said, I'm so sad that I didn't know about this. I mean, I've been in my job for 4 years, but if the 4 years before that would have saved me a ton of heartache from the jobs that I had in Texas. So
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to look at or like spotlight on your website is we don't talk to just spouses who are looking for jobs. We also talk to people who have like companies, and you guys do work with
Yeah.
military any company who's willing to work with military spouses, essentially
Hmm.
finding talent for them. How does that work on their end?
Hmm. Yeah. So we work with companies in ways. We work with them to create opportunities for remote. That could be part-time, full-time, even seasonal, which allows the spouse to take on, different things depending on. So we work with companies to provide those employment opportunities. We also work with companies of varying sizes for our community events. Sometimes that looks like sponsorships of different events. Sometimes that looks like a partnership, where we do different things together. So we have lots of, if there is a company out there that is interested in, helping military spouses, supporting military spouses, then we would love to chat because we, just like how we create the community with the community, and thrive there. We do the same thing with companies. It's like, hey, what are your goals? What are our goals? Let's come together. How can we support military spouses together and, come up with something, whether that is jobs, sponsorship, community, partnership, all of those different things. So we love working with varying
Yeah, and
companies
I
all
think
over
that's
the
super cool because
country.
I think that there's a lot of companies that are like military spouses who maybe their husband retired and they started this big company with him or things like that, and they want to give back to our community. And I think that this gives like we
Mhm.
have hiring our heroes, but that really kind of focuses more on the veteran side. You can kind of slip in as a military
Mhm.
spouse or a veteran spouse, but like you don't really have something that's just set for that, and that's what Insta Teams is. Insta Teams is for the military spouse to find the jobs that are
Yeah.
available to them. And I think as a military spouse, if we were to start a company, that would be somewhere that I would like to hire from, is because I do know that military spouses are resilient, they're dependable,
Yeah.
they're really amazing humans, and it is hard for us to get jobs. So I would be one of those companies where I'd be like, hey, I want to start by looking
Yeah.
inside of our community before we start searching outside.
Mhm. Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think that's like a pretty common like conception of like a lot of people want to do that, like a lot to build things like that. And so that's a great, I didn't even see that on the website. So I'm glad you said something about that, Sabrina, because I think that's a great little like tidbit too. It's like if you are a company who's looking to hire military spouses, like reach out to Instant Team and, you know, have them
Mhm.
help you. Because do you just do online jobs, or do you help businesses find like in-person jobs too?
I mean, our focus is remote jobs. We've done varying things, especially but like I said, yeah, we would work with that company to see what are their goals, what are they looking for, and how can we, bring in military spouses to support
Yeah,
what they're doing.
love that. So typically, we ask all of our military spouses before we kind of get off the podcast, what's your like number one tip for military spouses? It doesn't even have to be related to job experience, but what is your number one experience or tip to give to a new spouse, a seasoned spouse, anyone in between?
It's a good question. I know I have to think for a second. There's so many things that I would say, yeah, just get your resources around you. Don't be a hermit and, hide. I know oftentimes like I've PCSed and I knew it was only going to be a
Yep.
year, and so that can be difficult because I'm like, do I really want to put myself out there? Do I even really want to make
Yeah.
friends? It's all of those things because I know I'm just going to leave. But there is something really important about, when we do community meetups, all the time, like, just go get coffee. You never know what you're going to need or who you're going to meet, or maybe you do meet your next best friend that you stay in touch with for the next. And then constantly learning. I always say, like, one thing that I tell my kids all the time is, like, I just want you to have a love of learning, so if it's upskilling or learning something new, just even if you're not looking for a job right now, that's okay, but learn a
Yeah.
new skill, and get yourself out
I
there.
love that so much because we preach this all the time too. And as someone who is currently on a special duty assignment, not near military base, who didn't have a community, like, it wasn't I wasn't trying to make friends. It's just not easy to make friends when you're not in a community that doesn't have a lot of people moving around. I ended up signing up to be a substitute teacher just to get me out of the house. Even though I work full time and I run Deployed Love, I was just like, if I don't get out of this house and connect with other human beings, your girl is going to lose your mind. And so I signed up to be a sub, and it's actually been so much fun. Like, I'm living out my teacher like dreams, even though like I couldn't be a full-time teacher. Bless their souls, I couldn't do it. They're amazing, but going in like once a week or twice a week has been so much fun. And that community aspect, like, that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to get back to an installation, is just so I can get back to having those coffee meetups with other military spouses, doing events, connecting with other resources and things like that, because it really is so important, and it makes a world of a difference, y'all. Like, it truly does. Like, when you have a community, even if it's a community where you just feel safe in, like, you don't have to be BFFs with somebody to feel like you're a part of a community, but having someone where you're just like, hey, like, do you know about this, or what do you think about this, like, have you heard this, all the different things. And I think it's so 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 important to have that. And if you're stuck at home and you don't get out and you don't do all the things, you aren't going to enjoy the experience. You're not going to enjoy your duty station. You're not going to enjoy, most likely, your significant other, because they're going to be gone all the time and you're going to be constantly fighting and you're going to just be down in the dumps. And so getting out and finding something, whether it's learning, a community aspects, job, finding something that gives you a self worth, I guess is what I'm trying to say, can be really, really beneficial to a military spouse. And I will always.
I wanted to touch on that second part about the love of learning, because obviously as like a homeschool family, that's the goal, right? Like, I want them to continue to want
Mhm.
to learn outside of mom teaching what I teach, and they do. And it's really amazing to see that. Like, my son is like, this year I'm going to learn how to do yo-yo tricks, right? So he's been YouTubing it, he's been researching all these things like, on how to do his own skill. And I think as moms, specifically as moms, we kind of are like, my skills are doing the dishes, right? You just kind of fall into this routine of like, this is what I do. I have no time for me to go do something. But there are so many things, not just with an instant team. I mean, you guys have amazing things that are free, that are amazing for military spouses, but there are so many courses that you can take for free on the internet that doesn't have to be professional building either. Like, I'm obsessed with Creative Live. I don't know if people have heard of that, but it's a free website. If you go on and when they're streaming it, you can watch free classes on painting, photography, business, like setting up your business. Like, it's got a ton of really cool things that you can learn from. So I love the idea of just continuously learning things, because there's no reason to just be stagnant. Like, even if it's like 30 minutes before bed and you just sit down and you listen to a course, or you just kind of read a nonfiction book about something that you're interested in, it's so important. And I think it keeps your brain flexible and stuff. And as I, like I see my
And it
grandparents.
can be fun.
Yeah,
Learning
when you see your
it
grandparents like
doesn't have to
following
be
off of that, like I
like
want to continue to keep my brain active, and I think that is just it's so important for our mental health to.
Mhm.
and like things are
And I
changing too. Like in terms of like getting
Mhm.
educated, like if you want to go back to school and you're like, I've never been able to afford it. Like everything's changing. There's so many schools now that are offering scholarships for military spouses specifically.
Mhm.
I mean, the amount of schools that have reached out to me on LinkedIn, which I highly suggest. Like I think we talked about this. Like I suggest like setting up a LinkedIn profile, that have reached out to me saying like, hey, like we have this course, like, we think you'd be a great fit. Like we have a scholarship. Everyone that applies to it pretty much gets accepted because we don't have a lot of people applying for it and da 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 da. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I don't have time for it right now, but this is great. But like, it doesn't have to be like in a educational setting. Like learning can be fun. Like, picking a new hobby and learning a new hobby and everything like that. Like I am dead set on bookbinding this year. I know I said that last year. If you're listening, and everyone's gonna be like, you said that last year, Ashley, but I am dead set on learning it this year. I did a little bit, but like I think it's just something to do with your hands and get your mind thinking and growing and all the different aspects. I think it's just it's it's it takes being like where you could be really lonely to the next level where you can have a really thriving life and enjoy your time as a military spouse, because for most of us it's not a long time that we're a military spouse. It could be a couple years, it could be 20 or more, but in the long scheme of things it's not that long, and so make the best of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, do you have any last parting wisdoms for us, Kate?
Oh, well, just thank you so much for having us. And yeah, kind of like what I said before, like our hope for you is that you're really going to thrive, in this journey, whatever that means for you, and make the of it, like Ashley said, and, enjoy the process. I know there's hard days, there's challenging, but you really are remarkable. Just lean into that.
Yes, absolutely. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us for our second episode of season 5. We are so excited that you guys are still here along the journey with us, and we cannot wait to bring you guys more resources and more stories this year. We will be back with more episodes later, and we are so excited. So thank you again. And like we always say, rock up, Buttercup.